In our conventional understanding, time appears as a linear progression, an inexorable march from past to future. Yet, what if time is not a series of moments, but a fluid? To rethink our relationship with time, suggesting that our fixation on the past or future confines us to a narrow perspective of reality. Our perception of time influences our emotional intelligence. It prompts us to question, are we truly present in the now, or are we haunted by memories of the past and anxieties about the future? When we cling to past grievances or future worries, we obscure our ability to perceive and respond to our emotions authentically. Emotional intelligence begins with the awareness that the past and future are mental constructs. They exist only as memories or anticipations in our minds. Illustrate this with the analogy of a river. Just as a river flows continuously, our lives unfold seamlessly in the stream of consciousness. When we fixate on specific moments, regrets of the past, or fears of the future, we disrupt the natural flow of this river, causing emotional turbulence. The idea of leaving baggage behind to pass through the metaphorical pearly gates resonates here. Imagine shedding the weight of past traumas, regrets, and expectations. What remains when we let go? It's not about denying our history or disregarding future responsibilities, but rather about liberating ourselves from their emotional grip. Emotional intelligence begins with the art of letting go, a transformative practice that transcends mere psychological release. Imagine yourself shedding layers of conditioned responses and societal expectations, much like shedding the baggage of the past. This is a fundamental question of existence, stripping away the layers to uncover the essence of our being, the nature of attachment and liberation. The metaphor of passing through the pearly gates invites us to contemplate what we carry with us on our journey. Are we burdened by past grievances, clinging to identities shaped by outdated narratives, or anxiously reaching for future desires that may never materialize? Letting go is not about denying our past or disregarding our future responsibilities. It's about releasing the emotional charge that binds us to these constructs. The analogy of a clenched fist while holding on to the past or grasping for the future, our hands are closed, unable to receive the richness of the present moment. We create space for new experiences and insights to emerge. Emotional intelligence thrives in this space of openness and receptivity. It allows us to respond to life's challenges with clarity and grace, unencumbered by the weight of unresolved emotions or unrealistic expectations. Life is a continuous flow and eternal dance of creation and dissolution. Each moment offers an opportunity to let go of what no longer serves us and embrace the ever-changing landscape of our emotions. This isn't an act of escapism, but a courageous act of facing reality as it is, liberated from the confines of time-bound attachments. Developing emotional intelligence requires cultivating awareness and presence, qualities that allow us to navigate the complexities of our emotional landscape with clarity and intentionality. The importance of being fully present in the moment, free from the distractions of past regrets or future anxieties. A poignant analogy with driving, looking ahead through the windshield rather than fixating on the rearview mirror. Emotional intelligence invites us to approach life with a forward-looking perspective, responding to each moment with mindfulness and insight. Awareness begins with observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment or attachment. The practice of meditation, cultivating a spacious awareness that allows thoughts to arise and dissolve naturally, like clouds passing through the sky. By observing our inner landscape with curiosity and compassion, we gain deeper insights into the underlying patterns and triggers of our emotions. Our experience is in the here and now. It's about embracing the richness of each moment, whether joyful or challenging, with openness and authenticity. Watts would describe this as participating fully in the dance of life, surrendering to the flow of existence without resistance. Emotional intelligence thrives in environments of heightened awareness and presence. When we cultivate these qualities, we become more attuned to the subtle nuances of our emotions and the emotions of others. We develop greater empathy and compassion, recognizing that every emotional experience is a valid expression of our humanity. The interconnectedness of all life, a web of relationships and interactions that transcend individual boundaries. Emotional intelligence, therefore, extends beyond self-awareness to include a deep understanding of interpersonal dynamics and relational patterns. By honing our ability to listen deeply and communicate authentically, we foster meaningful connections that enrich our lives and the lives of those around us. Emotional intelligence blossoms in the fertile ground of acceptance and authenticity, two interconnected qualities that invite us to embrace ourselves and others with compassion and vulnerability. The importance of accepting ourselves fully, including our flaws and imperfections, as a crucial step towards emotional maturity. The masks we wear, the personas shaped by societal expectations and personal insecurities. Peeling away layers of an onion, revealing the core of our authentic selves beneath. When we embrace our true essence, stripped of pretense and self-judgment, we create space for genuine emotional growth and connection. Acceptance is not resignation or passive acquiescence, but a radical act of self-love and understanding. It involves acknowledging our emotions without labeling them as good or bad, right or wrong. To adopt a non-dualistic perspective and acceptance of life's inherent contradictions and complexities, including the ebb and flow of emotions. Authenticity, on the other hand, requires courage and vulnerability. It's about honoring our inner truth and expressing ourselves genuinely, even in the face of societal norms or expectations. The liberating power of authenticity, living in alignment with our deepest values and aspirations, regardless of external validation. Emotional intelligence flourishes when we cultivate acceptance and authenticity in our relationships as well. By embracing others as they are flawed and imperfect, yet inherently worthy of love and respect, we create environments of trust and mutual understanding. Empathy as the bridge that connects us to the emotional experiences of others, fostering deeper connections and shared humanity. Empathy and compassion form the cornerstone of emotional intelligence, an innate capacity to understand and respond to the emotions of oneself and others with sensitivity and care. The interconnectedness of all life, inviting us to cultivate empathy as a pathway to deeper understanding and meaningful connection. There's a profound insight into the human tendency to separate ourselves from others, to view the world through the lens of individuality and self-interest. Watts would challenge this perspective, suggesting that true empathy arises from recognizing our shared humanity and interconnectedness. Empathy begins with self-awareness and honest and compassionate exploration of our own emotions and experiences. To embrace our vulnerabilities and insecurities as essential aspects of our shared human experience. By cultivating self-empathy, we develop greater resilience and compassion towards ourselves, laying the foundation for authentic empathy towards others. Compassion, on the other hand, extends empathy into action and active expression of kindness and support towards ourselves and others in times of suffering or hardship. Compassion is a natural outgrowth of empathy, a willingness to alleviate the pain and suffering of those around us, recognizing their inherent dignity and worth. Emotional intelligence thrives in environments where empathy and compassion are cultivated and practiced. By attuning ourselves to the emotions and perspectives of others, we foster connections and mutual understanding. The metaphor of the web of life, a delicate interplay of relationships and interactions that transcend individual boundaries. Empathy and compassion are transformative practices that enrich our lives and the lives of those around us. They invite us to move beyond self-centered perspectives and embrace the interconnectedness of all beings. To have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float. In our modern world, societal conditioning often teaches us to suppress or control our emotions, fearing their unpredictable nature. Emotions are not adversaries to be conquered, but partners inviting us to join their dance. Imagine life as a vibrant dance floor, where each emotion, whether joyous or sorrowful, takes center stage, inviting us to move with its rhythm. Emotional intelligence is our ability to gracefully respond to these invitations, to sway with the melodies of our inner experiences without losing our balance. It's about attuning ourselves to the subtle nuances of feelings, recognizing their transient nature without clinging or resisting. Our philosopher reminds us that the journey towards emotional intelligence begins with embracing the full spectrum of our emotions. Just as a skilled dancer adapts their steps to the music's tempo, developing emotional intelligence involves fluidly navigating the ebb and flow of feelings, joy, sadness, anger, and love. Each emotion carries its own wisdom, teaching us about ourselves and our relationship with the world around us. To approach emotions with a sense of curiosity and playfulness rather than fear or judgment, just as a child explores the world with wonder, so too can we explore our emotional landscape with openness and acceptance. This playful attitude allows us to learn from our emotions, to discern their underlying messages, and to respond to life's challenges with greater clarity and resilience. Imagine life as an expansive dance floor where each emotion, like a dance partner, beckons us to join in its rhythm. Emotional intelligence not as a rigid set of rules, but as a playful and spontaneous interaction with the ever-changing music of life. In our journey towards understanding emotions, he encourages us to approach them with a childlike curiosity and openness, rather than fear or resistance. Emotional intelligence involves developing a keen awareness of our emotional landscape and learning to dance fluidly with its varied tunes. Just as a skilled dancer adjusts their movements to the tempo of the music, we too can adapt to the shifts and changes in our emotions. This adaptability does not imply suppressing or ignoring emotions, but rather embracing them as integral parts of our human experience. Playfulness is a gateway to emotional resilience and growth. It invites us to explore our emotional responses with lightness and creativity, fostering a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. When we approach emotions playfully, we transcend the limitations of rigid thinking and open ourselves to new possibilities for personal development and connection. The notion that emotions should be controlled or subdued. Instead, he suggests that true emotional intelligence lies in our ability to engage with emotions authentically, without judgment or self-criticism. By cultivating a playful attitude towards our emotional experiences, we create space for self-discovery and emotional healing. Consider the spontaneity of a dance a partner may lead, and we respond in kind, improvising steps that harmonize with the music. Emotional intelligence involves attuning ourselves to the nuances of our feelings, allowing them to guide us through life's complexities. This fluidity empowers us to navigate challenges with grace and resilience, embracing both the highs and lows of our emotional journey. Often drew inspiration from Taoist philosophy, which views life as a continuous flow of energy, ever-changing and interconnected. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu teaches us that true strength lies not in resistance, but in yielding, much like the suppleness of water that molds itself around obstacles rather than confronting them head-on. This concept resonates deeply with the essence of emotional intelligence, as Watts describes it, a harmonious dance with the rhythms of our emotions. Emotional resilience is rooted in the Taoist principle of Wu Wei, or effortless action. It involves cultivating a state of inner calm and adaptability, allowing emotions to flow naturally without undue resistance. Just as water finds its way through cracks in a stone, emotional intelligence empowers us to navigate life's challenges with grace and flexibility. Imagine yourself as a river, flowing through varied landscapes, sometimes calm and serene, other times turbulent and impassioned. Emotional intelligence invites us to embody the fluidity of this river, embracing the natural ebbs and flows of our emotions without clinging to fleeting highs or resisting inevitable lows. Through this acceptance and flow, we cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves and develop resilience in the face of adversity. Emotions not as obstacles to overcome, but as opportunities for growth and transformation. In the Taoist tradition, the concept of yin and yang illustrates the complementary nature of opposing forces, light and dark, joy and sorrow. Emotional intelligence, therefore, involves harmonizing these dualities within ourselves, finding equilibrium amidst life's ever-changing circumstances. The practice of mindfulness, central to Taoist teachings, aligns closely with approach to emotional intelligence. By cultivating present moment awareness, we learn to observe our emotions with clarity and detachment, avoiding the entanglements of excessive attachment or aversion. This mindful presence allows us to respond to emotions from a place of centeredness and wisdom, rather than reacting impulsively or defensively. The profound impact of mindfulness on our emotional well-being and personal growth. At the heart of emotional intelligence lies the practice of presence, being fully engaged and aware in the present moment without judgment or attachment. This state of mindful awareness allows us to observe our emotions with clarity and compassion, fostering greater self-understanding and resilience. Mindfulness is not merely a technique, but a way of being a gentle attentiveness to the richness of each moment. In our journey towards emotional intelligence, mindfulness serves as a guiding light, illuminating the intricate tapestry of our inner experiences and guiding us towards greater harmony and balance. Imagine yourself sitting by a flowing river, where thoughts and emotions drift like leaves upon the water's surface. Mindfulness invites us to watch these thoughts and emotions with a gentle curiosity, allowing them to come and go without becoming entangled in their currents. Through this practice of non-attachment, we cultivate emotional resilience, learning to respond to life's challenges with clarity and equanimity. To embrace the paradoxical nature of mindfulness, simultaneously attentive yet detached, engaged yet effortless. This paradox reflects the Taoist concept of Wu Wei, or effortless action, where we act in harmony with the natural flow of life rather than against it. In the context of emotional intelligence, Wu Wei teaches us to respond to emotions from a place of inner stillness and wisdom, allowing our actions to arise spontaneously and authentically. The practice of mindfulness also empowers us to break free from habitual patterns of reactive behavior and emotional reactivity. By cultivating present moment awareness, we become attuned to the subtle cues and signals of our emotions, enabling us to choose responses that align with our values and intentions. This mindful presence liberates us from the grip of automatic reactions, fostering greater emotional clarity and empowerment. The transformative power of vulnerability, a willingness to embrace our truest selves and engage authentically with our emotions. In the pursuit of emotional intelligence, vulnerability becomes a gateway to self-understanding, connection with others, and resilience in the face of life's challenges. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a courageous act of openness and honesty. It involves acknowledging and embracing the full spectrum of our emotions, joy, sorrow, fear, and love without masking or suppressing them. By allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for genuine connection and empathy, both within ourselves and in our relationships with others. Imagine vulnerability as a bridge that connects us to our innermost truths and desires. When we acknowledge our vulnerabilities, we release the burden of pretense and allow authenticity to flourish. This authenticity, in turn, fosters emotional intelligence by aligning our thoughts, feelings, and actions with our deepest values and aspirations. Vulnerability is a catalyst for personal growth and transformation. Just as a seedling breaks through the soil to reach for the sun, vulnerability empowers us to break free from limiting beliefs and societal expectations, embracing our inherent worthiness and potential. Authenticity is the cornerstone of emotional intelligence, a commitment to living in alignment with our true selves, regardless of external pressures or judgments. When we cultivate authenticity, we cultivate emotional resilience, learning to navigate life's uncertainties with grace and integrity. In numerous spiritual and philosophical traditions, including theosophy, there is a pervasive concept of two selves, the higher self and the lower self. The higher self is often portrayed as noble, spiritual, and aligned with virtues like compassion and wisdom. In contrast, the lower self is depicted as egoic, impulsive, and driven by base desires and fears. This dualistic framework mirrors our internal struggle, a constant battle between what we perceive as good and bad within ourselves. Imagine this inner conflict as a rider desperately trying to control a wild horse. The rider represents our higher self, striving for mastery and transcendence, while the horse symbolizes our lower self, untamed and prone to impulsive reactions. This analogy captures the essence of our daily struggle to manage our emotions and behaviors, to rein in what we consider undesirable aspects of ourselves, while amplifying those we deem virtuous. This conventional view of self and identity. In Zen, any belief in a higher self can paradoxically be seen as a trick of the lower self. The very notion that we must strive for a higher self implies the existence of a lower self that requires control or suppression. This perspective suggests that the dichotomy between higher and lower selves is itself an illusion, a conceptual framework that traps us in perpetual self-judgment and inner conflict. When we categorize emotions or behaviors as belonging to either the higher or lower self, we reinforce a dualistic mindset that perpetuates suffering. We label certain emotions as good or spiritual, such as love and compassion, while condemning others, like anger or jealousy, as bad or base. Yet, in reality, emotions are simply expressions of our inner state, waves on the surface of a vast ocean of consciousness. They arise naturally and subside on their own accord, without inherent moral value. The concept of two selves, higher and lower, is deeply ingrained. The higher self is revered as spiritual, virtuous, and aligned with higher principles. It represents our aspirational self, the part of us that seeks enlightenment, wisdom, and connection with the divine. On the other hand, the lower self is often depicted as egoic, driven by desires, fears, and impulses. It embodies our mundane, flawed nature, a source of inner conflict and discord. This dualistic framework mirrors our inner struggle, a constant battle between what we perceive as good and bad within ourselves. It's as if we are constantly striving to tame a wild horse, the lower self, while aspiring to embody the qualities of the rider, the higher self, who seeks control and mastery. A radical departure from this dualistic perspective. In Zen philosophy, any belief in a higher self can be viewed as a clever trick of the lower self. The very notion of striving for a higher self implies the existence of a lower self that needs to be subdued or transcended. This paradoxical insight challenges us to reconsider the nature of self and identity, to embrace a non-dualistic view of existence, one that transcends the distinctions between higher and lower, good and bad. It suggests that the dichotomy between these selves is itself an illusion, a mental construct that perpetuates inner conflict and suffering. When we cling to the idea of a higher self, we inadvertently validate the existence of a lower self that we must struggle against. Consider this when we label certain emotions or behaviors as expressions of our higher self, such as love, compassion, or wisdom. We create a hierarchy of value within ourselves. Conversely, we condemn emotions like anger, jealousy, or desire as manifestations of our lower self, flawed and unworthy. Yet, in reality, emotions are simply transient experiences that arise and pass like waves on the surface of consciousness. They do not inherently define us or determine our spiritual worth. The concept of two selves, higher and lower, is approached with profound skepticism. The idea that there is a higher self to aspire to and a lower self to overcome is viewed as a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature and consciousness. Zen invites us to consider the possibility that any belief in a higher self is, in fact, a clever trick of the lower self in an attempt to grasp at spiritual superiority or transcendence. Wisdom lies in transcending dualistic thinking altogether. This includes not only the dualism of higher and lower selves, but also the dualism of good and bad, right and wrong. Zen teachings emphasize the interconnectedness and interdependence of all phenomena. In this view, every aspect of existence, every thought, emotion, and experience is inherently interconnected and inseparable from the whole. Consider the analogy of a mirror. When we look into a mirror, we see reflections, some pleasing, some not so pleasing. Yet, the mirror itself remains unaffected by what it reflects. Zen teaches us that our true nature, our essential self, is like the mirror. It reflects the ever-changing landscape of thoughts, emotions, and sensations without being defined or limited by them. The illusion of emotional duality arises when we cling to certain emotions or experiences as indicative of our higher self, while rejecting others as manifestations of our lower self. This selective identification creates inner conflict and perpetuates suffering. Zen invites us to let go of these distinctions and instead embrace the totality of our experience with equanimity and acceptance. Mindfulness involves observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations with non-judgmental awareness. It's about cultivating a deep sense of presence and clarity in every moment. Through mindfulness, we come to realize that all experiences, pleasant or unpleasant, virtuous or base, are transient and impermanent. One of the fundamental teachings of Zen is the concept of non-attachment. Non-attachment does not mean detachment or indifference. Rather, it means letting go of our attachment to fixed identities and conceptual frameworks. It's about releasing the grip of egoic consciousness and embracing the fluidity and spontaneity of life. When we cease to identify with our emotions and experiences as indicative of a higher or lower self, we discover a profound sense of freedom and liberation. We realize that our true nature transcends all dualities and distinctions, that we are, at our core, pure awareness and presence. The concept of two selves, higher and lower, is seen as a fundamental misunderstanding of our true nature. Zen teachings emphasize the interconnectedness and unity of all existence, rejecting the notion that there is a higher self to aspire to and a lower self to overcome. Instead, Zen invites us to embrace the totality of our experience with mindfulness, presence, and non-attachment. Central to Zen practice is the cultivation of mindfulness and awareness that encompasses all aspects of our being without judgment or preference. Mindfulness involves observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations as they arise in the present moment. Through mindfulness practice, we develop a deeper understanding of the transient nature of our experiences. We come to see that emotions, whether considered virtuous or base, are fleeting and impermanent. Non-attachment is another cornerstone of Zen philosophy. It does not imply detachment or indifference, but rather a freedom from clinging to fixed identities and conceptual frameworks. Non-attachment allows us to let go of the illusion of emotional duality, the belief that certain emotions or experiences define us as either higher or lower. Instead, it encourages us to embrace the fluidity and spontaneity of life, recognizing that our true nature transcends all dualities. One such analogy is that of the mirror. Just as a mirror reflects everything impartially, so too does our essential nature, the true self, remain unaffected by the ever-changing landscape of thoughts and emotions. This reflection is not tainted by judgments or distinctions of good and bad, right and wrong. The practice of Zen is grounded in direct experience and realization. It invites us to go beyond intellectual understanding and directly perceive our essential nature. This direct perception is not a matter of belief or ideology, but a profound insight that arises from deep introspection and mindfulness. There is also an emphasis on the unity of practice in daily life. The insights gained through meditation and mindfulness are meant to be integrated into every aspect of our existence. This integration allows us to embody emotional intelligence authentically, not as a set of theoretical concepts, but as a lived experience of clarity, compassion, and wisdom. Developing emotional intelligence in the Zen tradition, therefore, involves a radical shift in perspective from seeing ourselves as divided between higher and lower selves to embracing the wholeness and interconnectedness of our being. It requires letting go of the egoic need to control or categorize our experiences and instead surrendering to the flow of life with openness and receptivity. Emotions are not mere fleeting sensations, but profound waves that ripple through the ocean of our consciousness. When we observe human emotions, we witness a dance of vitality, an undulation that mirrors the very essence of existence itself. It is fundamentally wiggly, shaped by the forces of nature and time. Likewise, our emotional landscape is not linear or predictable. It ebbs and flows, responding to the currents of our thoughts, experiences, and interactions. When we experience joy, it is not just a passing moment of happiness, but a wave of energy that uplifts us and connects us with the beauty of life. When we feel sadness or anger, these emotions are not obstacles to be avoided, but signals from within, urging us to pay attention to our inner world. The mistake many make is in trying to suppress or control these emotional waves. We cling to the idea of stability and resist the natural movements of our feelings. This resistance creates inner tension and disharmony, much like trying to hold back the tide with bare hands. From city grids to organizational charts, we impose straight lines and boxes upon the natural world. This craving for order reflects a desire for control and predictability, seeking to tame the inherent wiggly nature of existence. Euclid, with his simple geometric shapes and principles, offered a framework that appealed to the human mind's penchant for clarity and structure. However, in our pursuit of order, we often overlook the beauty and complexity of the wiggly universe we inhabit. When we apply this Euclidean mindset to our emotions, we encounter emotional rigidity, the tendency to categorize feelings into neat boxes of good or bad, right or wrong. We resist emotions that do not fit our preconceived notions of how we should feel or behave, fearing the discomfort they might bring. Imagine a person jogging along a straight path, determined to reach a destination in the shortest possible distance. Their focus on efficiency blinds them to the scenic wiggles and curves that make the journey memorable and enriching. Similarly, emotional rigidity blinds us to the depth and richness of our emotional experiences. Emotional rigidity manifests in various ways. It may appear as the suppression of feelings deemed unacceptable, or the over-identification with emotions that validate our self-image. In both cases, we deny ourselves the opportunity to fully experience the wiggly vitality of our emotions and learn from their inherent wisdom. The profound wisdom of embracing wiggliness in our emotional expression. Just as the wiggly nature of the Earth's surface adds character and dynamism to our landscapes, so too does the ebb and flow of our emotions enrich our human experience. Consider the beauty of a river meandering through a lush valley, its curves and bends creating habitats for diverse life forms. Our emotions meander through the landscape of our consciousness, shaping our thoughts, actions, and relationships. Embracing wiggliness in emotional expression begins with acceptance and appreciation of the full spectrum of human feelings. It requires us to move beyond societal expectations and personal judgments, allowing ourselves to feel deeply and authentically. We suppress emotions that are deemed undesirable, such as anger, sadness, or fear, believing that they diminish our strength or disrupt our sense of control. Yet, these emotions are not our enemies, they are messengers, guiding us towards greater self-awareness and healing. Imagine a world where we celebrate the wiggliness of emotions, where vulnerability is seen as a source of strength rather than weakness. In embracing our emotional depths, we cultivate empathy and compassion towards ourselves and others, fostering genuine connections and understanding. To develop emotional intelligence is to cultivate emotional agility, the ability to adapt and respond thoughtfully to the ever-changing landscape of our inner world. It is a journey of self-discovery and growth, where each emotional wave teaches us something new about ourselves and our relationships. In practicing emotional agility, we learn to ride the waves of our feelings with grace and resilience. We release the need for rigid control and embrace the natural ebb and flow of emotional energy, trusting that each wave carries with it valuable insights and opportunities for personal evolution. Just as a skilled surfer navigates the ocean's waves with skill and intuition, so too can we navigate our emotional landscape with wisdom and compassion. By cultivating emotional agility, we empower ourselves to respond authentically to life's challenges and joys, fostering greater harmony and well-being. The confines of emotional boxes and labels that often limit our understanding and expression of emotions. Just as Euclidean order imposes straight lines and grids upon the natural world, emotional boxes confine our feelings into rigid categories of good or bad, acceptable or unacceptable. In our quest for emotional intelligence, we must transcend these limitations and embrace the complexity and diversity of human emotions. Imagine a garden where every flower is categorized by color and species, neatly arranged in rows. While this organization may offer clarity, it diminishes the wild beauty and spontaneity of nature. When we label our emotions such as happiness, sadness, anger, or fear, we reduce their richness and depth. Emotions are not static entities, but dynamic energies that flow and evolve within us. They arise in response to our thoughts, experiences, and interactions, offering valuable insights into our inner world. It is not merely a fleeting sensation of pleasure, but a state of being that radiates from within us. Sadness is not just a sign of weakness, but a profound acknowledgement of loss or change. By labeling emotions, we risk oversimplifying their complexity and overlooking the wisdom they hold. Emotional boxes and labels also perpetuate societal norms and expectations, influencing how we perceive and express ourselves. Men are often discouraged from showing vulnerability or sadness, as these emotions are deemed incompatible with traditional notions of masculinity. Women, on the other hand, may face pressure to suppress anger or assertiveness, lest they be labeled as aggressive or difficult. To move beyond emotional boxes, is to embrace emotional authenticity, the courage to feel and express our emotions without shame or judgment. It is a journey of self-discovery and liberation, where each emotion serves as a guide on our path to greater self-awareness and wholeness. Imagine a world where emotional authenticity is celebrated, where individuals are encouraged to explore and embrace their emotional depths. In such a world, vulnerability becomes a source of strength, empathy becomes a bridge between souls, and authenticity becomes the foundation of genuine connection. Implications of embracing emotional wiggliness in our relationships. Just as the wiggly nature of the Earth's surface shapes its diverse landscapes, so too does the ebb and flow of emotions shape the contours of our connections with others. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, are fertile grounds for emotional expression and growth. They provide us with opportunities to navigate the complexities of human emotions and deepen our understanding of ourselves and others. Imagine a relationship where emotional authenticity reigns supreme, a space where individuals feel safe to express their true feelings without fear of judgment or rejection. In such relationships, vulnerability becomes a catalyst for intimacy, as each person's emotional waves intertwine and resonate with the other. We approach relationships with emotional rigidity, expecting ourselves and others to conform to predetermined roles and expectations. We may suppress our true feelings out of fear of conflict or rejection, sacrificing authenticity for the sake of harmony. Imagine a garden where every flower is allowed to bloom freely, each contributing its unique fragrance and color to the tapestry of life. In relationships characterized by emotional wiggliness, each person's emotions are honored as valid and valuable contributions to the shared experience. To develop emotional intelligence in relationships is to cultivate emotional attunement, the ability to empathize with and respond sensitively to the emotions of others. It is about creating a space where emotional expression is welcomed and respected, fostering mutual trust and understanding. Emotional attunement requires active listening, empathy, and a willingness to engage in open and honest communication. It involves tuning into the subtle cues and signals of emotions, even when they are not explicitly expressed, and responding with compassion and sensitivity. Imagine a dance where partners move in sync with each other's rhythms, adjusting their steps and movements in response to the music. Emotional attunement in relationships involves a delicate balance of give and take, where each person's emotional needs and boundaries are respected. Imagine a journey where each emotional wave is seen as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. In this journey, we learn to release the grip of fear and judgment that often accompanies certain emotions, allowing ourselves to experience them fully and without restraint. To achieve emotional liberation, we must cultivate self-awareness, the ability to recognize and understand our own emotions, triggers, and patterns of behavior. It involves becoming attuned to the subtle signals and messages that our emotions convey, guiding us towards greater clarity and insight. Self-awareness also requires self-compassion, the practice of treating ourselves with kindness and understanding, especially in moments of emotional turmoil or vulnerability. By offering ourselves the same compassion we would extend to a dear friend, we create a nurturing inner environment where emotional growth can flourish. Imagine a garden where each plant is lovingly tended to, where weeds are gently removed and flowers are encouraged to bloom. In our journey towards emotional liberation, we cultivate an inner landscape that is fertile ground for healing, growth, and transformation. We embrace emotional wiggliness and cultivate emotional intelligence. We empower ourselves to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. We learn to respond thoughtfully to our emotions and those of others, fostering deeper connections and creating a more compassionate world.